Welcome to the Asperger's experiment. Today we're talking to Michael, a young man with Asperger's syndrome, who has a fascination with literature and other forms of media regarding science fiction, fantasy, mythology, theatre and prehistoric life. Hello Michael, how are you today?
I'm fine.
What are you doing there, Michael? Those are very neat piles there.
I'm arranging my comics. I like reading comics. I'm arranging them into different piles here. Trying to make sure that they don't overlap and trying to arranging them from ones I like the most, the ones I like the least, and trying to ensure that, as I said earlier, that they don't overlap and that they keep with their the events keep within their respective timeline, and that the first issue of each story arc is at the bottom, and the concluding story arc, or concluding part of the story arc, at the top. But in regards of the timeline, I have to say some of them are quite easy to keep track, whereas others are really difficult. For example, Star Wars is incredibly difficult to keep track, and the Halo comics are actually quite easy to keep track of.
What makes you say that then, Michael?
Well, the books regarding Star Wars and also its comics cover about 100,000 years worth of history, so it's easy to get lost in. Whereas Halo, its comics and books cover about 30 years. Because as a matter of fact, there is a 25-year gap between Halo: The Fall of Reach Boot Camp and Halo: The Fall of Reach Covenant, so there's quite a lot that happens there. But in regards to the comics, the actual last chapter of the series is, in fact, Halo Uprising, because it takes place in between Halos 2 and 3.
Okay, and which superhero comics do you like the best?
Well, actually, the superhero comics that I like the best is not actually about a superhero at all, rather about a super villain. It's called Nemesis. It's about a super rich man who became bored of his life and decided to become a superhero. In fact, every single one of his crimes that he commits has the exact same goal as Batman's arch enemy, the Joker, has when he commits his heinous acts of terrorism.
And what is his reward?
The fact that he did it.
So that means it is not a superhero comic at all, but a supervillain comic.
Yep. That's right.
And what is the name of your favourite superhero then?
Well, I have two actually, Super Dinosaur and Officer Down. I like Super Dinosaur because he's actually the most anatomically correct depiction of a Tyrannosaurus Rex that I've seen in any form of media. For example, in the film Jurassic Park, the Tyrannosaurus Rex in that film had been depicted as having their hands facing downwards. The scientists actually believed that Tyrannosaurus Rex, T-Rex, Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus had their hands facing inwards, not downwards. So they couldn't turn their hands in a 180-degree arc like us humans can. They could only move them in, out, up and down.
Speaking of Down, what about this Officer Down?
Well, he's sort of a combination of three characters: Duke Nukem, Superman, and RoboCop. He's got he has the superhuman strength and near invulnerability of Superman, and he has he also has the unwavering loyalty to the law, like RoboCop. And in regards to Duke Nukem, he has his egotistical bravado, love of weapons, love of one-liners. In fact, he's said to be the perfect cop who literally works himself to death in that regard. And he loves he's got a dead aim shot and loves to use lethal force.
I have to ask, Michael, can you tell me about Asperger's syndrome?
What about it?
How does it affect you as a person?
Well, Asperger syndrome, it makes it very hard to understand emotions. I mean, sometimes I have to actually ask people to explain certain things to me. It also makes socializing very difficult. For example, finding or trying to make new friends can be quite difficult, and what's even harder is trying to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend for that matter. So therefore socializing is quite difficult for me.
I can see you have a Duke Nukem comic.
Yes. Oh yes, I do like Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem Glorious Bastard issues 1 to 4. It was released to coincide with the release of Duke Nukem Forever, which was the one game that took the longest, well, was in development hell for the longest in any video game history, which is 15 years.
Wow, that's a long time. What else can you tell me about Asperger's syndrome?
Well, it depends. I mean, some people say that I an emotionless robot like Data in Star Trek. Although that being said, Data actually managed to have an emotion chip installed into him in Star Trek Generations after he felt he took a joke too far after pushing Dr. Beverly Crusher into a holographic simulated sea. On the other hand, though, I actually see myself as more like Sheldon Cooper, in my favourite character in the American comedy series The Big Bang Theory.
And why is Sheldon like an Asperger?
Well, Sheldon is very strict on the way he lives his life. Everything has to be done by routine, absolutely everything, including where people sit in his couch. And also he constantly asks people asks people if they're being sarcastic if he suspects that they're being sarcastic. And also he's actually in a way a scientific genius, but his experiments always go horribly wrong due to miscalculations.
How do other people normally act around you?
Well, it depends. Sometimes they act friendly, sometimes with hostility, and sometimes they treat me like a child. And I absolutely hate that.
You say it is hard to get a partner of sorts. What makes you say that?
Well, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, girls can find it very hard to take in the information that I sometimes come out with, and sometimes a person with Asperger's syndrome can find it very difficult to know if they're being coming on too strong. So sometimes we scare girls, although we actually respect girls or potential partners that actually tell us, have the courage to actually tell us that we're being too strong, but most of the time girls either just run away and hide behind insecure boyfriends, or tend to use our loneliness to their advantage. So it's safe to say that I actually have a bit of a trust issue with women. So therefore, trusting anyone, getting a partner of any kind is very difficult for me.
Well, this is good, and thank you for doing the interview with me, Michael. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's okay, it's a gesture to say goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
And now we're at the end of the Asperger's experiment. We hope that it has been an interesting experience, and we hope that you have learnt something about the Asperger's syndrome. Until next time, how does Mr. Spock say goodbye, Michael?
Live long and prosper.